All right, we started the recording, and it is May 14, 2016. I have the just great honor of having Mel Robertson on the show, and she has a business model, Decluttering Spaces. And the title of this show is Decluttering Spaces and Becoming a Happiness-Seeking Missile. So, those people, nobody's jumped in yet, but we're just going to start off, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Good. So what's going on?
Oh, well, I'm excited to be here. What an honor it is for me to be here with you. So thanks again for having me. This is such a new experience of getting myself out there and just being a face with a name and actually owning what I do. So this is a really neat experience for me and just a way to own what I do and get out there in the world and do what I came here to do.
Exactly. So what's really interesting for me is that Mel and I met, having camera problems here. Mel and I met at a networking event. But what happened is that I got there late. You were at a table with a few friends, and quite frankly, you were just like, something told me to connect.
Love that.
So I pretty much pay attention to my intuition. What's interesting I've learned about that is the more you do that, the more you get. And then that just evolved into inviting you on the podcast. And that was episode 44. And for those people that want to know about that, I'll drop a link in right now. Do you want to just talk a little bit about who you are? I mean, we'll get into what you do, but I'm much more interested in who you are.
Who am I? Isn't that the question we're all trying to answer our entire lives? Nothing perceivable or conceivable is who I am. Mel Robertson. To sum me up, I guess I really feel like I'm just a being of love and light and really here to share that with people and help people really embody their essence, their presence, their birthright of being truly happy and living from that place and embodying that oneness, that unity, that place we're all trying to get to in meditation or all the spiritual practices. It's like, it's just here right now and you don't have to do anything special. And it's just getting present with what is and really leading people into connecting to that and living from that place so they can truly live a happy life. I mean, that's really what I'm about. And, that's what led me into creating Decluttering Spaces and doing the work that I do with people.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I'm always typing, Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people that sort of talk about that in terms of what you just did, in terms of just helping people on that level and stuff. But you have a very particular, really, therapy or technique that you discovered in yourself through your own healing.
Yeah.
And although people can listen to this in the podcast, you can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little history's good.
Yeah. I mean, what I've found is that the one most important tool that is really all you need is your presence. You need to be willing to take your presence into your life and become present and learn to turn your attention inward. And when you're willing to do that and take your focus off external things and put your attention inside, then the clutter that's there, that's blocking you from experiencing your essence, your natural birthright of happiness, starts to gently be revealed to you as is right for you on your path of unfolding and healing. And that's the one tool, is being willing to just take your presence and turn it inwards. And when you can do that and you take the time and you get consistent in doing that, the healing just happens naturally. I mean, that's what all the practices are leading to, is you taking your presence, turning it inward and getting reconnected to yourself, your inner universe, because you are the microcosm of the macrocosm. So everything you need is right within you. It's not out there. So if you just turn your attention inward and begin that journey, more will be revealed to you.
The answers. But it's also, would you agree, it could be said that sometimes when you start looking, that it gets a little uncomfortable.
Well, that's why you avoid looking, because it is uncomfortable. That's why you need to commit to turning your presence inward, because it's not an easy journey and it's not always fun.
Yeah.
But, it has been, it has been it's been a, you know, I've had the gift of really experiencing, both extremes, having really deep sorrow and sadness, and the other extreme of being totally blissed out and happy. And, you know, by turning my attention inward and doing that inner work and being present, there's this sense of being where it doesn't matter whether there's a heavy emotion or a blissed out energy. Everything is perfectly well, calm, centered, the eye within the hurricane. You're not caught up in the wave. You're just aware of it and present with it and fully embodying, okay, when I'm sad, I feel the sadness. When I'm joyful, I feel the joy. But in those experiences, I don't waver in feeling like something's not okay or something's wrong. Like everything is perfectly unfolding when I'm willing to turn my attention in and get present. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And that's what I experienced. And it was really well said.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how did you get into that in terms of exercise? I mean, it's like, I already know, but I'm asking a question that somebody out there that isn't actually live on this episode may want to ask.
Yeah,
Where do you start, in other words?
Where do I start? Well, to give you a little background for those of you that didn't get a chance to listen to the podcast about me, for me, I had a lot of traumatic experiences in my early childhood, so that by the time I was at the age of 15, everything that had already led up to there, I had experienced what I consider to be the dark night of my soul. And that was like the icing on the cake. And for me, that was losing my older brother to suicide and being the one who actually discovered his body. And having to deal with that. And also, because I was his only sister, he left everything he owned to me. So a 15-year-old then had to make those decisions about what I was keeping, what I was letting go of, what others could have, and had to deal with that whole piece at a really young age of inheriting someone's belongings. And after experiencing his suicide and that loss, it was so traumatic for me that I was a danger to myself. I was suicidal. I didn't want to be here anymore. So I was institutionalized. And looking back on that, when I was younger, it was really traumatic. But I am so grateful for all the people that I met, all the experiences that I had, because I was already at a really young age, because of being institutionalized, introduced to creative visualization, progressive muscle relaxation, and those kind of things. So for those of you that don't know what that is, progressive muscle relaxation is done in two ways. One, you can actually physically clench your body in different muscle groups and relax and experience relaxation that way. But another way that I learned was to actually use your mind and your attention and say, put your attention on your right foot and relax your right foot. And so I learned at a really young age that I could use my mind to relax my body, and that if I could control my mind, then I could control other things. And so I didn't get all that really young. Looking back on that, I understood that, because I was still, a long journey from 15 to that. But those places led me to that, as well as at 17, I was introduced to yoga and mindfulness, meditation. I was fortunate enough to go through John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction program at about 19 years old or so, like that, or 18, I forget. And I was really I was a seeker, even though I had all this stuff going on. Like I was a sponge. Like I was looking for answers to anything. Because I had been brought up in Christianity and it stopped answering my questions. So I was seeking through yoga, Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism. I was studying martial arts. I was studying all kinds of things, and that led me into energy healing and working with energy and learning really young, like at 19, that we are energy. Like We're just energy. And if we can work on an energetic level, then that bypasses everything else, because spirit is energy, and the power that made the body heals the body. And so it trumps everything. So if you work with that energy and bring that in and use that energy to do your internal decluttering, that's the only tool you need. And so I used understanding that I'm energy and bringing that light and that energy into my body and doing my own healing work, and then realized that this is just, it's this simple. If you can work with this energy and you can turn your attention in, you have everything you need within you to do this work. And so that's what led me to doing this. And that's the internal, like, one piece that gets it there.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. One of the themes, if not the theme, for alternativehealthtools.com podcast and the Blab is that everything is energy. There is nothing that is not. And so it's like, when I think about that, I think of spirit, that the spirit is everywhere. Yeah. There is no place it is not. It only needs to be recognized.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm really big on quantum physics, and it's like, the basic premise is there's only one substance. That one substance then contracts and condenses into form, which is manifest reality. But then that contraction will dissolve back into that one substance. So it's just like the wave in the ocean. It comes up, it crashes back in. No different. It keeps going on and on and on ad infinitum. It's never going to end, But it's
so would you describe that as flow? I mean, would you label it as flow?
Yeah, it's just it's the infinity symbol. It has to go continuously. It's like waking up and going to sleep. We wake up, we go to sleep. We wake up, we go to sleep. Just like consciousness, if you look through eons of time, like there's times where we wake up in consciousness and there's times where we go to sleep. We're in a period where we're waking back up because we're coming into the age of Aquarius for the next 2,000 years or so. Then we're going to go back to sleep again, just like the Egyptians did. And then we'll wake up again. It never ends.
Yeah, nice. So that's a big piece to be aware of.
Yeah. And when you can get that it never ends, it frees you. Because I won't be in this body, but the one substance will manifest again as we continue on.
Yes. The energy never leaves, it just transforms.
Exactly.
In the Eckankar religion, they talk about passing this life, passing on, whatever. They use the word translation. So it's like a translation into something else.
Yeah.
Pretty
Love that.
So let's chat a little bit about, the name of the show is Decluttering Spaces and Becoming a Happiness-Seeking Missile. And so the happiness-seeking missile we're covering quite well. But decluttering spaces, once again, we've covered part of that on the internal level. But, really part of your business is people contacting you with issues of, I don't know, I guess I'm going to use the word hoarding, or stuff, or don't know what to do with it, or it piles up in the garage, or they need to move, or usually I'm imagining there's some point in their life where it gets to be so painful that a shift needs to happen, and this person finds you or contacts you, and then where does that person go with you from there?
When the person contacts me, I like to set up a time where we can just go out and meet if they're in the local area. If not, we can jump on the phone or Skype so they can actually see me to get that connection. Because I really like to connect with people. But just meeting them where they are and meeting them in their home and talking to them about what they think the issue is and what they want to work on, and really understanding where they're coming from. But also in asking those questions, I get a clear picture of, how much rigidity, how much denial, how much unwillingness to look at what's really there is in my assessment with them. And then most of the time, people don't even realize that their clutter is a symptom, that it's just a symptom of something much bigger going on. And so I have to start working with them where they are. And if they want to create some space in their kitchen or work on their pantry or clear their desk, I have to go with them where they want to work on and give them what they want and start to show them. And while I'm working with them, if the energy and the opportunity presents, then I can start introducing the internal clutter concepts and start talking about that. Because sometimes when you start talking about it with people, they glaze over. Like, internal clutter, what do you mean? There's so much denial from, and the clutter is a wall. It's a protection. It's protecting them from the pain and all the traumatic events that are in there that need, that you're holding on to, that you're unwilling to process and unwilling to feel. And so people don't even realize that that's even the case. So it's really this, I feel like it's this gentle chiseling that I do when I go in and work with someone. It's like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to move this. And then I talk about the clutter and the internal clutter. And then when I come back, we're kind of working on the same thing again sometimes, or we're moving on. But it's really getting people to start to see that that the clutter out there is not going to stay clear if you don't address the internal. Like, you can keep having me come in here and do this, but if we don't ever start to work on what's going on in here and why you have the clutter in the first place, it's going to keep coming back. And so it's just really meeting them where they're at and just taking baby steps with where they are and leading them into, when they're ready, being able to start that process of internal decluttering and really, really uncovering your essence and living from that place of true happiness and joy.
Yeah,
and freedom.
Freedom. What I really like about you is that there's respect, there's compassion, and there's love in the process.
Yeah.
Because, well, there just has to be. This is not somebody coming in walking your dogs.
No.
It's a service to somebody. This is a whole different level, which I would imagine can open some doors for a lot of people in terms of their own personal growth. It could be a very great beginning spot for many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you create any space in your life, you're creating some space for something else and different to come in. So even if we're working in the physical, creating that space is still doing something. It's still helping, but it's just not getting to the root. So we're creating some space maybe to free up some more energy, so they actually have the energy to maybe do a little on their own, because they don't even have the energy, because the clutter is so draining. When you have all that clutter around you, it's just sucking out your energy. It's just draining you because it's surrounding you. Even though it feels like a protection and you need to keep it around you, it's doing the opposite to you.
Muted myself. I just want people to also be aware of your Facebook page. A lot of, I'm discovering more and more. A lot of people are spending tons of time there. Of course, Facebook's like really doing a great job of making it easy for people to find out what other people are doing.
I can't keep up. Like, I literally will when I send out emails, it automatically posts to Facebook, and there's a couple groups that I'm in for like committees that I'm on or things that I'm doing. But other than that, like, I'm not sitting there on the news feed, like seeing what's going on with people. I can't do that.
Yeah. So actually talk to me a little bit about that, only because that is a form of cluttering.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, before you start talking, it's just like, I'm aware of that because I'm basically been doing a lot of social stuff for a church and a couple of businesses and stuff. And I'm, it's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
Just way too much. I'd much rather be doing what we're doing right now, blabbing or podcasting or meeting somebody face to face.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely a face-to-face person. And what I just really feel like is that, it's really, being a human being, it's hard enough for us to be present as it is. Like, we have so much unconscious programming that's running the show all the time. Like, if you put 100 people in a room at any given moment, only 3 of them are present. So we're not present. And so we don't need anything else to take us out of the present moment. It's like Facebook. Let me check Facebook. I'm not in the present moment. I'm not in my body. I'm not here. It's like, let me go somewhere outside of myself to get what I want or need. And it's just reinforcing going outside of yourself. Oh, that little red indicator. I got to go see what happened on Facebook, or I got to keep up. It's like, it's just another thing that keeps you from being present with yourself. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and you can say when I first in a minute, but it's
if I remember what I was going to say.
Okay, so like let's say you walk into a room of 100 people and you know that there's maybe only 3 people present. How do you identify them?
Well, it changes each
And
second.
that's yeah, and that's a general question. It's like in my life, I'm always seeking those people that are present because there's such richness and living there. And I'm not talking just about, the distraction of this. I'm talking about, I mean, people can be totally living outside themselves and not even own a cell phone. So it's a lot of times the stories that are going on up there.
Right,
That,
right. Yeah, I mean that's one of the big internal clutters that I work on with people is, we our subconscious runs the show like 80% of the time, 88% of the time. So that's like our computer programming. That's like what's running the show. So if you have outdated beliefs and stuff like that, that's your programming, that's your limiting in those when you have limiting beliefs, because we think 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and our beliefs are what drive those thought patterns. So if you have these limiting beliefs, then you have these thought patterns that are also limiting, that act as clutter. So one of the things that I help people do is become aware of what their limiting beliefs are, and through their awareness and becoming aware of it, that's all you need to do. Is that's what starts to dissolve it, the awareness. And you change your subconscious programming, and when you do that, you can become more present when you're taking the subconscious and putting in new programs that keep you present. Does that make sense?
totally.
Yeah, so that's one of the big internal clutter pieces, are limiting beliefs. That was brought there.
Yeah. I'm going to go back and enforce some stuff here because I know that there was a period of your life where there was nothing going on inside except for probably a whole lot of suffering and all the rest.
Yeah.
So it's like, I hear what the words you just used were, it's like all of a sudden you became it made itself present to you in terms of being aware and all the rest of this. So like, what is the one thing you would tell somebody that would be trying to get in touch with that internal wisdom? Keeping it really simple. What's the one thing that people, can do to sort of
The one thing that you can do is just commit to having time where you get quiet and turn your attention inward. And if you commit to doing that and taking the time, everything else reveals itself. Like I resisted all the tools that I had that I was taught when I was younger. I didn't apply them in my 20s. Like I gathered all that information, but I mean, I didn't really start applying a lot of stuff to just like a few years ago when I really made that decision that my happiness was going to be my number one priority, and I was really going to embody what I was reading about in all these philosophies and books and stuff all my life. That was when I decided to embody it.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I thought you would probably say. I mean, there's just a point where you gather information and then it's application time.
Yeah, I mean, there's everybody wants to sell you all these tools and all this stuff, but the truth of the matter is that the only thing that is required is your presence. If you are willing to bring your presence to what's going on inside of you and use your awareness like a flashlight and reconnect to your body and allow things to naturally reveal themselves to you, it happens the way that it's supposed to. It's not rushed. It's not forced. It's like, for example, I've been, turning the flashlight on myself for a really long time, and being willing to do that and building that foundation allows for deeper things to be revealed. So like at the beginning of this year, one of the things that I hadn't allowed myself to do was to really feel the sadness of my little kid that experienced not feeling wanted and feeling like a burden in my family and feeling responsible. Like I realized that I never even allowed myself to feel that. And I got that awareness. And so then by doing that, in where I'm turning my attention inward, I'm allowing myself to just experience that. And by experiencing that energy as energy and sadness and whatever it is, then that takes the power out of it. That's the decluttering, because I've brought my awareness to it and my presence to it. So it's not stuck anymore. It's gone, it's done. And so whatever else is coming up is just more. And the more I'm willing to turn my presence inward, the more is revealed. But it's never more than I can handle. I'm never given more than I can handle. If I was given that 3 years ago, it probably would have sent me for a loop. But now I have the presence to just be able to sit with it and allow it to be energy and watch what it does and get excited about what it does and then watch it leave. and then
Yeah.
feel so much freer for it and feel even lighter and happier than I am now.
Yeah. So I think what you just mentioned, it's a really important, I consider it a principle, which is you're never given more than you can handle.
Yeah.
The thing to do is properly handle it. And in your case, it's just like what you're saying, just pay attention to it and work with it. It's a gift.
Yeah.
If somebody gave you roses, would you throw them out? No. You take care of them. You feel it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the biggest key. You just said it, is feel it. I mean, we're so resistant to feeling anything and feeling emotions that it's just learning how to sit with the energy and realize that when you experience something going on in your body, when you drop the story about it and what it's all about, and you just get present with the energy itself and where it is in your body and what it's doing in your body, and you remove all the labels, even the label of sadness or anger or judgment, pulling the labels away and just being with the energy of it and watching what happens, you'll watch it ebb and flow. It's like a wave. It'll rise up and then it'll dissipate if you can just be present and not get caught up in the story. And that's why I love this work, because it's like, all those years in therapy where you're digging and needing to talk about the story. It's like, none of that matters. You don't need to know the story. You just need to learn to be present with the feeling, the energy. And when you can witness it instead of deny it or avoid it, then it's free. It just needs your witness. It needs your presence, and then it's gone. It's done.
Yeah. I'm sort of wondering the following three people, if they've been any kind of influence on you, which is number 1, Byron Katie, number 2, Brene Brown, or number 3, Tara Brach.
The first two, who was the first one you said?
Byron Katie.
My friend introduced me to her. I've never done any of her work. The second one I've actually never heard of, but Tara Brach I actually love. I actually just listened to one of her podcasts yesterday.
Yeah, which what was the title on that one?
The Reign of Forgiveness.
Oh my God.
It was, I'm like, I needed to hear this right now, because revealing in January of that an energy and feeling that sadness has, as I've continued to sit with it, revealed a lot deeper stuff that I'm going through and I'm healing. It's like new layers of stuff are coming up, to be clear. Yeah. And it's so beautiful. It's painful, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. I ask you just because regarding Byron Katie and Brene Brown, I'm not as familiar with Brene Brown as I am Byron Katie, who basically asks, she basically says, no story, no suffering. And she says, there's 4 questions, to ask yourself is, because we don't really do much inquiry, but part of what's great about you is that you're sort of doing all these deals, but you discovered it a different way. So it's like in the inquiry process for Byron Katie, it's like, can you believe that's true? And can you absolutely know that it's true? And because of this, it's more like, because of this, what's your life like, essentially? And if it didn't exist, how would it be? So, it's like, it's that, I mean, I get into so much trouble just when I'm not paying attention to my thoughts.
Well, I was just reading Quantum Conscious, a lot of books by Stephen Walensky, and is talking about, the biology, our biology in our nervous system was created first. Thoughts came after. Like, our thoughts are just the way that we interpret and try to understand information. But again, it's not the thing. Like the details or the story or the thing is not the thing itself. It's once removed. So our thinking is removed from the experience. So if we can just step out of the thinking and just drop into the experience, that's the purity of it. Yeah. The mind just confuses it. The mind is great at analyzing, and it has a great job to do. We just have to make sure we give it a job to do, like focus the attention.
Yeah.
Exactly. Pay attention. That's your job. Pay attention where I tell you to go, not where you want to go.
Yeah.
You're under my control now. You're not my monkey mind anymore.
Yeah. So it sounds like you actually have a pretty good teacher within yourself, and it keeps you on track.
Yeah.
The great the great classical guitarist Andre Segovia, I don't know if you know who he is, but he was the one that basically took this little cafe Spanish guitar into the concert hall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and partially the way he was able to do it, he said people would ask him, how did that happen? And he would say that, I found, in terms of my skill level and beauty and music, I found in myself a real teacher. that matched the eagerness of my student.
Love that.
Yeah.
I
So,
love that.
you know, there was an internal discipline going on, which I think certainly in our culture is somewhat lacking. There's sort of a lack.
Yeah.
There's a lack
You
of
know
that
what?
discipline and a lack of what I was going to say was a lack of critical thinking. And you have great critical thinking, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So go ahead. What are you going to say?
Now it's gone now. It goes.
Sorry.
It's all good. No, it's all fine. It just, it gets pulled out if it's not meant to be
Yeah.
said. It's no big deal.
I find it fascinating. It's like 11:15 Pacific time in California, Southern California, on a Saturday morning. There's nobody in this Blab except for us. It's open, and we've told some people about it. But my only conclusion that I cannot know is absolutely true is that there was a bunch of partying going on last night.
Right? It's Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
Big events going on.
Yeah.
Is EcoFest today?
No, it's Sunday.
Oh, Sunday.
10 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not that then.
Yeah. So, I think it's just interesting. And but I consider the fact that we're recording it, I would encourage you to share this with a lot of people. I'm certainly going to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting because when I did the interview with Christopher Timms on Down the Rabbit Hole, it was an interview that was going to have a live Q&A at the end. And the same thing happened. People just wanted to listen to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
They were just listening in. No one wanted to jump in. They just wanted to hear us continue the conversation.
Yeah.
So that was interesting too.
Well, at the end, this will end up on your channel, your Blab channel. And when that, so you'll have some content to push people. Just push people to your Blab channel. But you can also get a sense for how many people are actually pushing the button and watching and replaying.
Oh, cool. Oh, good. You get that information. That's cool.
And you can embed it on your website too with the right code.
Yes.
And you could actually, if you wanted to, I could send you the MP4 if you had. Do you have a YouTube channel?
No, but I have to create one. I'm sure I will.
Okay. You already got some
I
content
will.
if you want to use this.
I do. I have all my videos. I did a video summit a couple years ago, so I have a lot of videos where I interviewed some really cool people.
Nice.
But they're all stored on a different platform, so I can actually move those over to YouTube too. So lots of expansion happening in my world now that I'm coming out of my shell and
Nice.
learning all kinds of things and meeting new connections. So.
Yeah. You actually were pretty excited before we started talking about all the new people you're meeting, connections you're making.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just amazing how when you actually follow what's going on, it's like, okay, I got a nudge that I needed to get out of my shell and start doing things. And so I joined the networking group that you're a part of in a separate chapter, which led us to meet at a mixer. And, that's led to some great connections. The podcast has actually had people go to my website and reach out to me. So that's, reaching people and just getting out of my shell and coming out there. It's just really exciting. So I just met, I had someone who has been on my email list for a while that I'd never met that lived somewhere else. And they recently just moved to Carlsbad. And one of my local clients they're in a mastermind together. And she's like, you need to meet this person. You need to meet Mel. And then she's like, you need to meet this person. And literally we had already spoken on the phone once before. So it was just natural for us to get together. And we've just found that we both have skills that complement each other. And we both have a really congruent message with what we do with people. And now we're collaboration partners. I have skills that she needs help with, and she has things that I need. So it's a new way of working with someone in supportive and not about financial monetary gain. It's just about collaborating with someone and having a team and working with someone and helping each other move forward in what our visions are. And we were just dropped into each other's laps. So stuff like that is happening that is just blowing me away.
Yeah, nice. Well, it's a golden age. In my opinion, it's a golden age of collaboration.
Oh, I like that.
No, it is. I mean, the networking's a part of it, but networking's the place where you find your collaboration, not necessarily collaborating with everyone there. But it's like any tribe. It's like any tribe, but the tribe's a little different. Every tribe's got its own thing. But
right.
But it's all what's common is there are people there.
Yep. Yeah, and
Go ahead.
And I just found for me that like for a while I was trying to take my business on more of like an internet thing and do that kind of stuff. And like, I just work better connecting one-on-one with people. So that's why I was like, oh, I got to go like actually join a networking group, get face to face and meet people and make those connections, because that's where I come across well, is in physical, like one-on-one connection.
Yeah. Didn't you have a workshop not too long ago?
I didn't have a workshop.
Oh, are you going to be doing a workshop?
No, I could eventually, but no, I attended Maria, my teacher for Taa-naash-kaa-da. She was in town the first week of May and doing workshop and ceremony. So I had a week of her in town where we just experienced some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I missed that. I would encourage you to let me know what's going on at that level. I'm really like one thing I'm really loving about EcoFest tomorrow is the connections with the native tribe. But
can you send me the link to that? Because I might be able to swing by at some point, but I don't know because I have 2 clients tomorrow. But
yeah, so hang on just a minute. I'd like to do it a particular way. There you go.
Excellent. Sweet.
Is there, sometimes the pinning works, sometimes it doesn't. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about before we wind it up?
Oh, there we go. Cool. You know, I mean, my biggest thing my biggest message that I want people to understand is that really that clutter is an inside job. Even if you don't have physical clutter, if you don't have a problem with clutter, if you're unhappy, if you're feeling exhausted, you're having physical stuff like fibromyalgia and energy issues and stuff like that, those are just symptoms. Anything like drug addiction, all that stuff are just symptoms. There's some loud noise going on.
Sorry.
There we go. It's gone. That's okay. Those are all, again, it's going. Well, every time you do that,
it's weird.
Okay. So basically that all of that stuff is just a symptom that there's internal clutter that needs to be addressed, that needs to have your attention. And that's the biggest piece I want people to get, is that it is an inside job, and that you have everything that you need inside of you if you would just make the decision to put your happiness first and turn your attention inward, your life will change so drastically. I mean, for me, when I finally made the decision that I was going to put my happiness first above everything else, above my relationship with my wife, above my employees and my job, and whether I stayed at that job, when I finally made that commitment and that decision to put my happiness first, then Providence kicks in and helps you. But then I was willing to make the choices and do the things that I needed to do, like take time each day where I had silence and quiet, and I turned my attention inward and got present and just witnessed what started to happen. But it wasn't until I made the decision to do that things started to change. And for me, when I made that decision, things changed beyond my wildest imagination, because I was in a place where I was super miserable at a job where I was a manager and my employees were calling me at all hours. I never had a break. I was tapped out, and I was going through a tough time where my wife was experiencing anxiety and insomnia due to her mother's health condition and stuff like that. And so we lived in a studio condo downtown, and there's no room with a door except the bathroom that closes. So if my wife is awake, I'm awake. And being a manager and having my energy tapped out, I just got so depleted and I was so miserable that I, again, didn't want to be here anymore. What is the point of all this?
Right.
I've done all this work,
right,
and I'm still miserable. What's going on? And so, I had read and everything, all the spiritual things that I'd ever studied, that it's our birthright. It's our essence. We are pure joy, pure bliss, that peace, that innate knowing that all is well, where you can just be the eye of the hurricane. And so I made the decision and the commitment that I was going to do whatever it took to find that for myself, or I'd be done. But I was going to commit to that. And so doing that is what changed my life. And within 3 months, we were able to buy a house and move her mom in with us,
Wow.
which alleviated my wife's anxiety. And then 3 months later, beyond my wildest imagination, I was able to leave that company and go work for these two women as their assistant, who, thanks to my wife, made me get a contract.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 weeks after I started for them, they said, "Oh, we don't need your services anymore." So they paid me my contract, which was $50,000. And so I was like, holy crap, how did that just happen? Just from taking time to get present with myself and commit to my happiness and doing this work, 6 months, this kind of thing happens in my life. I'm like, whoa. And so I took that year off, and, I took quite a few months to just heal. But that's where I took the time, and that's where I formulated decluttering spaces and started formulating the idea and working with friends and getting some experience. And then the beginning of 2014 is when I actually launched it and had my first client.
Nice.
But it was in that period where I created decluttering spaces. And now here I am today. From just 2013 was when I finally made the decision that I was going to put my happiness first and really committed to doing even more work than I'd already done, but just committing to that process. And here I am today, and it just keeps getting better and better. And it doesn't mean that I don't have hard days or hard times. Like, I'm going through a lot of emotional stuff where I'm doing my own decluttering still, and deeper stuff is coming up. But in the midst of all that, I can be feeling my sadness and still have joy inside. Like, I can have both. And that's the beauty of living from your essence, living from that place, is that you can experience all of it without being attached to any of it and stuck on any of it. You can just be. And that's the freedom and what I want to share with people and how I figured that out for myself. And that's all I have to offer is what I learned myself. I mean, I have trainings, Reiki, I did yoga teacher certification, I've studied martial arts, I have some training, some theta, but it's not about that for me. It's just about me sharing with people how it worked for me, and hopefully that will work for you too. And you can adapt it and do what works for you.
Yeah, well, you said a moment ago, it's just, I just want to share it with people. Well, you just did.
Yeah.
So
it's just want to share it. The power is within you. Like, you have everything that you need inside of you. Don't let anybody tell you any different. And if you're just willing to turn your attention around and stop focusing out there on everything that's going on out there, because out there is just a representation of what's going on in here. If you want out there to change in here, and out there changes with it, not the other way around. Because if you change out there first, it just comes back until you change the inside.
Nice. I'd like to wrap this up. Got to
wrap it up.
Get moving towards EcoFest and some other stuff that's going on. But I really want to thank you. I'd encourage you to do this more, and I'd be happy to help facilitate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just got to pick a time when people aren't so busy, I guess.
Yeah, Saturday morning is not a good time for a Blab.
Yeah. Well, you could actually start a Blab on your channel and stick it on your website and just see who shows up.
Okay.
But let me know. I'll be following you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you again, giving you a big hug.
Yes, absolutely. Likewise. I'm glad you're loving your new space.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Except for the roofers are here next door. And so great. Change microphones. Put on some filters. And just make it happen.
Such is life.
Yep.
All is well.
And anybody wants to check out the podcast that Mel was on, it was really good. And that's at alternativehealthtools.com. And if I remember right, which I do, is episode 44. Isn't that a master number or something?
I think so. 44?
Yeah, 44.
44.
Mel, thanks for being here.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
All right.